I made this one several years ago. I was using 1/2-inch joints, and this just gets fastened to the miter saw. And there's all kinds of examples of box joint jigs on the internet. I was amazed. I went on again last night. There's all kinds of videos showing you how to make different types of jigs. From basic ones like this to things like this, which I downloaded plans for this one. But then there's another one that I didn't want to tackle, which is super complicated. There's a guy named Matthias Wandel. I don't know if any of you have ever seen any of the stuff that he's made, but he made a jig like this that's got a series of wooden gears with wooden teeth. And it's so precise. I mean, you could adjust the joints to the 16th of an inch. And anyway, that went way above my head. So I went with this idea, and the reason why I liked this type of a jig as compared to any of these other basic jigs is I never like putting my hands down over the fence holding the material. It just seemed to me to be unsafe, and they're not as accurate, in my opinion, as something like this. This particular jig makes joints like this. You know, they're really tight, and I think the reason why is because you've got this advance carrier here. You clamp the material in here. That substitutes for your hands, so you don't have to worry about it. And it's got this 3/8 inch threaded rod here, which is the screw advance. And so what I did is I put a rule on here, and there's a little cursor, and every turn of this is a 16th of an inch. So if you want to make a 1/4 inch joint, which I've done here, you would turn it 8 times, you know, to advance to the next cut that you have to make. And so what you do is you
4 times.
What's that? Well, 4, but you have to space.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. So so it works great for 1/4 inch joints, 3/8, 1/2 inch. You can go all the way up to an inch joint if you want to make something that large using this jig. But anyway, there's a clacker over here. There's a hardwood stop with a cam. I just noticed a rubber band is broken. But when you turn this thing, it'll click and it helps you count. Okay, so I'll get it back to my setting here. All right. You can only use this particular jig on the general saw. Don't use it on this saw stop. In fact, we still have the no dado rule in effect for the saw stop, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I made it for this jig only. So we've got 2 1/4 inch blades here from the dado set. And one of the things that you should do when you initially set it up is take a piece of material that you're going to use for cutting, and you can use a gauge if you want, but just a simple piece of scrap, you know, scooting right over top of it, to where the tooth will start to scratch the top of it. If you do that, then you know you got it set up right. It's very basic, but it works. So anyway, that's set for this material. This is 1/2 inch material.
So you were just talking about adjusting the height of the blade.
Yeah, just adjusting the height of the blade, right. And there's a backer board here that I made out of oak. I've got double-sided tape to hold it in place. You can move this around, you know, to prevent chip out. And you have to have a stop, or you should have a stop. And I just use this piece of 1/4 inch plywood for a stop. And so what you do is you put your pieces in the carrier, like so. And another advantage of doing something like this is you can do 2 at a time. So
you're doing the 2 sides?
Yeah, I'm doing the 2 end pieces here. So you just stick them inside the carrier, run them up against your stop, and to prevent, you know, tilting, take material the same thickness, which are the other sides, and just clamp this down. and then you just run it right through the saw blade. So that's your first cut. And then, in the interest of time, I don't think I'm going to do all the cutting because it'll take a while. But then what you do is you just go to the next cut. 6, 7, 8. Okay. Then you make your next cut. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then your next cut, so on and so forth. So you go all the way through. Then when you're done with that first pass, you take them out, you flip them over. And then by this time, you're down here, you run the stop up against that last cut, clamp it down again, and then you go in reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the first cut. So 8/16 is a half inch. So it's spacing it down to precisely where you need to make your cut. And then when you're done with that, you take them out, and then you put your side pieces in there, do the same thing. And then if you do it correctly, you'll make boxes like this.
So your first cut on the other side pieces are going to have to be offset.
You can do it that way. I've done it both ways. I've done an offset. You don't have to do the offset. In fact, I was in here yesterday working with it, and I just did it the same way. But you can do that. You can do the offset if you want to. So that's really all there is to it. And
now to make them slightly looser.
I'll make it slightly
What's
looser.
your magic trick there?
Okay. In fact, the guy on the video that designed this thing talked about that. If you just make a straight cut, you'll get super tight joints. Now, the trick that he talked about is when you push through, you can push to the right. And then when you pull it back, you pull out to the left, or vice versa. So by doing that, you introduce like 1/1000th of an inch tolerance. And that's what opens the joints ever so slightly. In fact, he makes a lot of drawers and boxes, and he makes hinges using the box joints, you know, for decorative kind of work. And the reason why he does that for the hinges, of course, you got to have the, you know, the play of the hinge. But
Have you done that and it actually gives you just what you need for clearance?
Yeah.
So as is, are those so tight you don't need glue, or
well,
you can't take
it would be hard to get glue in there. I could probably force it in, but another trick that he demonstrated on the video is when he makes simple boxes like this, he just takes crazy glue and he just draws a bead of crazy glue on the inside corners. And it seeps into the joints and makes a super tight joint.
And do they always work out so the boxes are square? Exactly.
They should be. I mean, I could maneuver it to get it square, but there's enough play in here to allow you to do that.
Great. Nice.
But anyway, this belongs to the shop. I've got the instructions here telling you how to use it. I'll put them in the binder that Warren was talking about. But it's great for, you know, dovetail joints are probably the strongest form of joinery that you can have. And box joints are probably right behind it. And they're a lot easier to make, a lot faster. And they make great joints for drawers and boxes and other types of projects.
Any other questions for Tony?
Any concerns about different kinds of wood? This looks like, what is this?
That's MDF. Plywood, just general plywood doesn't work at all. Baltic birch, I think, would work good.
Because of the splitter?
Yeah. In fact, I played with some little scrap plywood in here, and the stuff was blowing out even with the backboard.
Mention your cedar.
Oh yeah, the cedar, I did. It's out in the shop. I got some cedar pieces out there if anybody wants to use it. You know, they're like 4x pieces of cedar.
Everybody know that we have put some cedar out in the wood shed.
But again, any of these things will work. But you know, if you want something a little bit more accurate, then, in my opinion, you know, I think this would be the way to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.